Welcome to Facebook Friday. I'm Kate Wakelin. I'm from Neuroendocrine Cancer Australia and I'm the Neuroendocrine Cancer Support Nurse. So I'm just beaming into you from my office here in Melbourne where it's a beautiful sunny day. I hope it's an okay day where you're joining me. Just wanted to say hello. Firstly, just a couple of updates from previous Facebook Fridays, and this is, I guess, the nice thing about doing these videos is that people can ask questions, and sometimes I know the answer off the top of my head, but sometimes I have to phone a friend, and I am lucky that I've got a lot of health professional friends who I can ask these questions of. So a couple of weeks ago we did talk about vitamin deficiencies, and particularly around vitamin B3, and a couple of people asked the same question, which I thought was a really good one, because we know that people with neuroendocrine cancer, particularly when you get carcinoid syndrome, have a tendency to vitamin B3 deficiency, and that can result in a condition called pellagra if it gets really bad. And the question was, is it just that your body needs more vitamin B3, or is there a problem with the absorption? And I guess for some people, if you've had an operation which has taken some of your bowel away, or if you've got reduced bowel function and reduced absorption, that can be the case. But actually for lots of people with carcinoid syndrome, it's just that you need more. So supplementing your diet with vitamin B3 rich foods can certainly be, certainly not going to harm you, but it can actually be quite worthwhile boosting those levels. However, if you have carcinoid syndrome and your vitamin B3 level's really low, it can be quite hard. Really, you'd have to eat a lot of very rich vitamin B3 foods to achieve the levels of supplementation you'd need. And to do that, you might then be cutting out other food groups that you also need the nutrients from. So this answer came from Erin Laing, who's our net specialist dietitian here in Melbourne, who's doing her PhD in vitamin deficiencies and nets. And so she was really helpful in answering that question for me, and I'm actually going to I'll copy and paste the actual answer that she gave me, because I thought it was a really wise response. So actually, yes, if you have nets but you don't get really bad carcinoid syndrome, it might be enough just to boost the vitamin B3 content in your food. But if you get carcinoid syndrome, you're probably going to be deficient in a way that supplementing your diet might not cut it. So I have to keep my eyes off the comments because you distract me with all the lovely things you say. Anyway, the other thing that a bit of homework that I had, and it sort of came out of the same diet kind of question, and someone in the Facebook group was talking about using Junket for diarrhea, which I had never heard of before. I used to have Junket when my Scottish nana used to make dessert for us, and I think I enjoyed it a whole lot more before I realised what it was made from, and I'm not going to go into details because, as usual, I'm streaming to you at lunchtime. But for some people, you know, they said, well, Junket is a cure for diarrhea, and when I went to my Dr. Google and very carefully looked for verified sources, there weren't any, but there were plenty of cure your natural health kind of websites that did sort of mention Junket for diarrhea as like a traditional remedy, and I thought that's really interesting. So I asked Erin in another email to her saying, have you heard of Junket? We've heard of lots of other things. I know a lot of people use white marshmallows. Some of you find that's helpful. Junket I'd never heard of, so I thought I'd ask her, and she hadn't heard of it either. It's essentially an enzyme. It's a digestive enzyme that breaks down protein, and what it does is it forms curds and whey. So if you add it to food before you eat it, it does some of that digestion that would normally happen in your stomach. Erin's comment was that we know that the enzymes that break down fats, for people who are on, say, somatostatin analogues, they may well be deficient in those enzymes, and they may also be deficient in protease, so the enzyme that breaks down protein in your diet. And that's essentially what Junket is. So I guess if you're getting diarrhea that's as a result of not digesting protein, well, then maybe it's worth a try. I've never seen Junket I've never noticed it. I've never looked for it in the supermarket, and given that we've been in self-isolation, I haven't been to the supermarket since this question came up to even see if I could get it off the shelves. If you get diarrhea and you've tried the Creon and you've tried all of the other things, Junket's not going to hurt you. So I'd be interested to see about other people's experiences. Have you tried Junket? Has it helped? What's been your experiences? So I'm clearly not suitable for vegetarians. If you do any Googling on this, then you'll know that it's not going to be suitable for vegetarians or for vegans, but you know, I've got an open mind. It's interesting. So there was another question that came through as a result of the Facebook conversations, which I'm going to address shortly, because I want to talk about pain, and I did give you some warning about this, those of you who were online this morning. But before that, just a really brief update about the coronavirus situation. I guess the good news, we hope it's good news, is that the various state governments have eased restrictions, and there is variation from state to state, so sometimes that difficult can be that information can be tricky to navigate. So I guess it's really up to you to work out what the law says. But something that we've been talking about in our family is, well, even if the law says that we can have 5 people around to our house, do we really think, are we really comfortable with having 5 people around to our house? Like, I really still don't want to get this. And I've seen an interesting meme make its way around Facebook, and maybe some of you have seen it as well, which is, it's no safer to get coronavirus. It just means the easing of restrictions just means that, you know, there's room for you in the intensive care unit. So I think, you know, the evidence is very compelling that that can make you very seriously unwell, and I'm keen to avoid it. So I think that's a tricky thing for us all. You know, when it was full on lockdown, the decisions were a little bit easier. We can't go out unless we're, you know, going to a medical appointment or, you know, exercising, or those, you know, 4 reasons there were. Now there's a whole lot more reasons why we can go out. We need to make some individual calls on that according to our own state of health and well-being and perceived vulnerability. So I just wanted to say out loud, I'm finding that tricky, and I'm sure that for people in our Facebook group, that will be tricky for you as well. So I just wanted to say that out loud. Just 2 things. The first thing is, if you get symptoms, and this is tricky for people when you're going through chemotherapy, for example, and you're likely, or sometimes, you know, people who have cancer get a higher temperature for other reasons like inflammation. But we're really encouraging people to have a test if they have these sort of odd flu-like symptoms. So it's things like, you know, even a runny nose, certainly a dry cough, and a raised temperature, and you know, the other flu-like symptoms as they come. So they're also, you know, in some states talking very encouragingly about getting tested if you're asymptomatic. So that's just something to keep in mind. And the other thing I would strongly encourage you is that if you have an appointment with your doctor, or for a scan or a test, really important to keep those appointments. There's a lot of concern in the medical community about people not showing up, and you know, now we're worried about, well, maybe people won't get sick with coronavirus, but you know, we're worried about delaying diagnosis, but we're also worried about people not having their tests and scans and being able to keep an eye on people as we should be able to. So just wanted to say that out loud. So on to pain. Now, pain is massive, and I'm not going to cover the whole subject. In fact, people spend years studying pain. And my big plug, and I'm doing it before I even start talking about it, is the Cancer Council. So they've got a really fantastic resource. It's called Overcoming Cancer Pain, and this is actually the PDF version, which I printed out. So they do have physical copies of this booklet, and you can order it online, or you can call them on 13 11 20. They'll send you a copy free of charge. But this is the version that I printed out on my computer this morning. It's a really good Bible for if you ever get pain. There's some fantastic information in there. So I would just really encourage you to download that and have a really good read. And if you're like me, I got the highlighter out and went through it, and really sort of picked out the things that were really important. So have a look at that. A few things that I wanted to say. The first thing was that we always, you know, from time to time in our Facebook group, we'll have someone saying, what are you taking for pain? What I'm taking isn't really working for me. And I guess for me as a health professional, that just raises some little alarm bells, because pain is incredibly individual. There are a myriad reasons why you might have pain, and there's a myriad things that can be done for the pain, but it depends on what's causing the pain, so the mechanism, but it also depends on a whole heap of other things, like what other medications you're on, what treatment you're having, how long we think the pain will last, all of that sort of thing. So just absolutely share your experiences, talk about what's working for you. This is what this group is about. But for your own management, it's really important that you communicate really clearly with your healthcare team. And if you're not getting anywhere with anything, but especially pain, it's absolutely fine to ask for a second opinion from someone who might know a bit more about managing this complex situation, because pain is very complex. So there's a number of things that can cause pain. It might be as simple as tissue injury. So it might be that you've got tumour pressing on something that's causing compression and causing pain. Sometimes we get pain because there's a tube like our gut that's trying to squeeze content through like our gut, and it's getting obstructed. So we could get pain because of obstruction, and it's because of that peristalsis in the digestive system or whatever tube we're talking about. So that's a different mechanism of pain, different cause, and then sometimes different things that we do about it. Sometimes we get pain because of inflammation, so it's about swelling and lots of white blood cells flooding to an area, and the chemicals that they release actually are painful, and that's why, sometimes it's like bee sting, that sort of thing, that's an inflammatory type pain, and that's really different to, other sorts of pain. There are other, there's heaps. So, and nerve pain was the other thing I was going to particularly talk about, which is not necessarily because of an injury to the nerve, but it's the nerves transmitting a pain signal from a nervous source, and that's a really different sort of pain. And once again, the medications and the measures that we use for managing nerve pain are really different. So one thing that I wanted to really address in our group is that is the issue about chronic pain. So there is pain that you might get if you, for example, have an ingrown toenail. You go to the podiatrist, they do a nail resection, and that involves some cutting and some burning and some tissue injury. And that actually can be really quite sore. Anyone who's had that done will know that's some decent pain, but within a couple of days that's going to go away. So that's acute pain. It gets better quite quickly, goes away, and I don't think about it every time I've had ingrown toenail surgery. I don't think about it every time I put my shoes on. I don't have like the visceral memory of that pain. Chronic pain is when you get pain for months rather than just a few days, and that's a really different scenario. And something that I like to think about it like is if you imagine your nerves are like a paddock, like a field with grass on it, and it's been raining a lot, so the ground's really soft because nerves are very malleable. So nerves are quite flexible, just like a soft, rainy kind of paddock. And if you can imagine, you get your ute and you drive along that paddock once through, and it looks not like a puddle, so you might see the track marks maybe for a day, but you're not going to see them. If you come back next week, you're not going to see the track marks from one ute, hopefully, from one ute driving through the paddock. But if that ute goes backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, you get ruts. Like you get some marks in the grass, and eventually you get full-on ruts where you can see the tracks in the mud. And even if that paddock dries out, so all the rain's gone, and it might be months or even years since that ute went up and down the track, but you can see the ruts are still there. So it's actually changed the physical structure of the soil in there. So I like to think of nerves in a bit of the same way, and those of you who know me well know that I love a metaphor, so just go with me on this one. But what we know is that for nerves, when they're transmitting a pain signal over and over and over again, you actually get physical changes in the structure of the nerves that they can actually see under the microscope. And so what happens is that, like if you didn't drive on that rut for, a little while, but then you sort of took the car out of, you put it in gear, you released, and it actually, you just let it idle along, it would drive in those ruts even if you weren't using the steering wheel. It's almost like it knows where to go. And what happens with nerves is that if they get those ruts in them, if we get those permanent changes in the structure, the thing that's caused the pain might have gone away. Actually, we might not be getting ongoing tissue damage, but they're far more ready to transmit those pain signals despite whatever's happening at the other end. So chronic pain is actually a real problem because we can get even healing of the injury, but the nerves still want to transmit that pain signal. And the key to managing chronic pain is to be very proactive. So if I've had my ingrown toenail done, really, I sort of need to do some sucking up. Like, you know, it sort of takes some pain relief, but, you know, if I get pain come back and it's a little bit of a time before I take the pain relief and I put up with it a bit, that's kind of what you expect, and it'll go away on its own. With chronic pain, we actually need to be far more proactive about it. We need to take it very seriously and really get on top of it. So people tell me things like, oh, I don't want to take strong pain medicine because I might not have anything to go to if the pain gets worse, or they worry about what it means to be on an opioid like morphine, for example. And they work against us, those perceptions. So firstly, all that strong pain relief means is that you've got strong pain. So we've got to get away from this, you know, I don't want to get addicted, or it means that that I'm dying, or those sorts of extra kind of layers of meaning that we put on those medications. Strong pain relief, we use it for strong pain. It's got to be as simple as that. But also, we need to get on top of this because we don't want it to become a long-term problem. Because if we get those ruts in the nerves, we know that as time goes on, that pain gets more and more difficult to control. So we need to get onto it really quickly. We need to manage it with the experts. There's lots of different things we use for pain, so it's not just medication. Sometimes it's radiotherapy. If it's bone pain, radiotherapy can actually be really effective. If it's nerve pain, it's different medications to if it's pain from the lumen of the gut, or if it's tissue damage, if it's sort of direct impact from a tumour. So the measures that we use will vary according to what the cause of the pain is. And a really good pain clinician, one of the things that we want them to be doing is actually looking very carefully at what's causing the pain, because that will then help us to drill down into what we can do about it. One of the things that you can do if you're getting pain is keep a pain diary, and there's a good example of a pain diary in the booklet, so I'd really encourage you to have a look at that. And it talks about things like the quality of the pain, so if it's burning, or if it's throbbing, or if it's sharp and searing, there's lots of words that you might want to put around that pain, and that helps the health professionals to really work out all of the ins and outs of that pain issue. But also the timing, so is it pain at rest, or is it just when you walk around? Is it pain when you sneeze? Is it pain when you eat? Is it pain when you go to the toilet? So let's work out when it's happening. Is it waking you up at night? They're all of the things that we want to capture with your pain diary, and then they can work out what to do about it. And sometimes, it's things like a TENS machine can really help too. So sometimes it's non-pharmaceutical things that can be really the key. So the other thing the question I had, and I'm just going to check in my computer and see if there's any questions about that, and a few people have done little hellos, which is really lovely to see you. Someone rang me early this week, and it was actually about a conversation that had happened on Facebook in the group in February. I hadn't seen it, and I think it's a good little note for us that I don't necessarily see everything that comes across the Facebook group, especially if it's happened over the weekend. I'll come on and turn my computer on and I'll have like 65 notifications, and it's like sometimes I don't actually see every single comment. So I'll come in and try and provide input and feedback as is helpful. But if I don't comment on something, it may be that actually I just haven't seen it. So I was really pleased that this person pointed this one out to me, because it was about something I'd never heard of before. And it's a substance called, it's PEA, and here's my little test for the day. My first intellectual test was getting the live video to work. The second test is how to pronounce PEA, which is palmitoethylethanolamide. I'm sure that's wrong. It's a big long name. PEA is the shortening of it. And what I read about it in the Facebook conversation when I did a search on it, and this person asked me about it over the phone, is that it's a naturally occurring peptide. It's a substance that is naturally occurring in the body. I'd never heard of it before. I was like, what on earth is this stuff like, is it poisonous? I had no idea. So one of the resources that we're really lucky to have here in Australia is the Medicines Information Centre at Peter Mack, and that's available for far more than the Peter Mack patients. There's actually anyone in Australia who's got questions about medicines, and particularly how they relate to people with cancer, then the Peter Mack service are amazing. And can I just say, they got back to me within half an hour or something, and I had this really comprehensive reply. So I'll put the contact details for that service up in our Facebook group. I have talked about it from time to time, but I know, you know, we have so many conversations going all at once that you may have missed that one. Really fantastic service. Don't all email them at once or they'll hate me forever and never want to talk to me again. But I just sent them an email saying, have you ever heard of this? Like, what is it about? Are there any interactions with chemotherapy? What do our patients with neuroendocrine tumours need to know about this particular substance? I will copy and paste, just like the dietitian's comments. I'll just copy and paste the answers about this substance in the notes for this live video. But essentially, the studies are really limited, and often we find that with, you know, sort of natural products that there haven't been rigorous clinical controlled trials. One of the things about that is that there is an unknown, so we don't know that it's not a problem, but we don't know that it's a problem. Like, there's no alarm bells going, oh my goodness, don't anyone eat this because it's poisonous. We don't know that. So what it was Gail, who's the senior pharmacist who answered this email. She said that studies are very limited, that she could find very limited information on adverse effects, except for mild transient, which means passing gastrointestinal symptoms and nausea. So I guess for our patients with NETs, we do need to be a little bit careful about that, because a lot of our patients have got gut tumours or treatments that affect our gut function. So treat with care. It's a fatty acid. It's registered in Europe as a medicinal food. It can also be found in some foods like egg yolks and peanuts. And I guess it's a naturally occurring substance, and it appears to be produced by our bodies as a response to stress or pain. So there was a link that Gail sent to me. I'll put that in the notes. I guess the short story is that it sounds like it is worth considering trying in a very careful way, and to, you know, in your pain diary, note it down that you've taken it, and certainly if you experience any change either in what's going on cancer wise, but also any adverse events, stop it immediately. But also tell me about it, like tell your doctors about it, and also I think it would be really worthwhile feeding back to me so I can feed it back up to Peter Mack, that, you know, if people are having problems with this substance. The other thing I would just mention is that I was talking actually to Deanne, who's our community engagement coordinator, who's got frozen shoulder at the moment, and she's in a world of pain. She said that one of her friends had mentioned it to her and that it was super expensive, and I didn't have time to actually look up how much it cost. A lot of these sorts of products are really expensive because we don't have the evidence to take them to the prescription benefit scheme to say, hey government, you know, cover the cost of this, it's worthwhile. So, but sometimes the cost of these sorts of substances can be, I think, probably a little bit artificially inflated too. Can I say that out loud? I just did. So I don't know how much it costs. Let us know if you know. So just again, the plug, download the Cancer Council booklet. It's a ripper. It's very much worth downloading and reading, or just ring them on 13 11 20 and they'll send you a copy. I will put the notes about PEA up on our notes. I just wanted to check if there's other things. Oh yeah, I've talked about, like, there's lots of different members of the healthcare team who can help us with this. So sometimes we're just thinking doctors, but also people like radiation oncologists, our pharmacists, because lots of these drugs for pain interact with each other. So we absolutely have to check those things with those professionals. A cancer nurse can be really helpful. Sometimes people like a psychologist who can help us with behavioural ways of managing and thinking patterns that help us manage, because pain is not only physical, there is an emotional aspect to this as well. It's really, really tough, and it's very tiring to be living with ongoing pain. And tiring on those around us too. So looking after the whole of ourselves, not just our body, is really important. Exercise physiologists can be really useful as well. The other things were just really little housekeeping things, so I'd nearly finished. I just wanted to thank everybody for your messages, your emails, comments on the Facebook, both in the group and also on the beautiful thing that Unicorn of Neuroendocrine Cancer posted about us. It just made not only my day, I really snivelled my way through International Nurses Day, in a constant state of, emotions, because it was just, really so much loving. I'm so grateful. It was just so lovely. And it just made me reflect back to last week's conversations around when things go awry and how we should feel free to pass that constructive feedback on to our healthcare services that so that we can improve things. But also, just for me, that made such a big difference to, not just my day is a complete understatement. And it just made me remember that, let's not forget to tell people when things are working well, when we have made a difference, because people really need that too. Most of our health professionals work pretty hard, and even if they get it wrong, even if it's seemingly, it's gone pretty shonky or pretty badly, most of them start out, most of us start our day wanting to make a difference in a good way to people's lives. So when we do get that right, it's just so lovely to get that acknowledgement. So thank you. I just really felt so much love and so much appreciation. If you've got a nurse who you're in touch with, I know a lot of you have nurses who come and give you your injections. There was a concert that was, it was called the Heart Sounds Concert. I'm going to put a link up in the notes because it was beautiful, and I can't begin to express how grateful I am to our artistic community. So, singer-songwriters, performers, actors who put together a live stream concert for International Nurses Day for all of us nurses to sit back in our Ugg boots and get a glass of something nice and watch this beautiful concert. And if you've got a nurse in your life and they may not have seen this concert, I'll give you the link in the notes below so that you'll be able to pass that on to people. Or if you've got a nurse in your family, but it doesn't make you give your registration number. It's actually just a really lovely concert to watch anyway. But yeah, again, just so much felt the love. Just a couple of other little plugs. The first thing is that Facebook Friday, next Friday, I'm really pleased that we will be having a researcher called Alex Broom join us. We had a meeting this week about a new study, and it's different to lots of the studies that have been done in the past, in that lots of studies involve people either going on a clinical trial and taking drugs and doing lots of tests. We do a hell of a lot of surveys where we ask you to tick a box that most fits your particular situation. I know sometimes there's not a box to tick that fits you with your situation, so they can be frustrating and time consuming and all of that. But this study is a really interesting one. It's a qualitative study which involves interviewing people about their experiences and really drilling down into what these things are like for them. And it's about neuroendocrine tumour patients and their experience of precision therapy. So that's, I guess, essentially immunotherapy. Now, knowing that lots of people with neuroendocrine cancer, immunotherapy is not on the table for you. So you might be thinking, why would I be interested in this study? Well, they're actually very interested in capturing data about that too. So I'm very interested in the study. I think it's a really interesting one. And I'm going to be interviewing Alex on Friday to find out more and to tell you more about how you can participate. So we will see how the technology plays. The last time I did an interview video, it was pretty interesting, but like today and like every week, if we drop out, we'll come back in, but we'll also stitch the video together in a continuous format so that you can hop in and watch at a later stage without all of the interruptions. So the other thing I just wanted to plug with you is the group. We've got an online group meeting this afternoon. Last time I looked, there were quite a few people coming in. So if you have said that you want to come into that group meeting, you're really welcome. I'll get it going so that everybody's microphones are muted when they enter the room, so that we don't get, complete fruit salad worth of people all talking at once. So I haven't given anyone the link. That is on my list of jobs to do as soon as I finish this live video. But yeah, looking forward to meeting together with a few of you via Zoom after this. And just for those of you who missed it last week, all of our physical support groups are meeting via Zoom during their normal meeting times, and we're talking with the facilitators of each of those groups with, you know, things like links and instructions and that sort of thing. But knowing that lots of people in our broader community can't get to can't link in with one of those normal groups under normal circumstances. So we've decided that while we're feeling the Zoom love, we're going to go ahead and start an open group. So that's what we're doing. So yeah, I'll give the link to those who have registered interested in that. If you can't find it and you're interested, it's in the events tab in our group space today, and we'll be running the groups once a month about in the morning or in the evening. So sorry, beg your pardon, Friday afternoons. And then next month it'll be on a Wednesday evening. So just one more thing to do, and that is that I know Kim, our gorgeous Kim with NEC, so that's the very high grade of the high grades, had brain surgery this week, and I saw a picture of your dressing on your head just before, Kim, and I just wanted to give you a shout out and say hello. And also I've been meaning to show you this wonderful little character who might have come in a parcel from someone that you know well, who also had some pretty important and good news this week, David Lockwood. So I just love this punching unicorn. So Kim, punching is for you. You're doing such a fantastic job, and I wish you all the best with your recovery and, you know, just getting back home after that massive brain operation. So I'm going to wind it up here. I'll get to and send out a link to those who are going to join us in the Zoom group this afternoon. I hope you have a good week. Happy birthday to Helen. I nearly forgot to say happy birthday to you. I can't promise to say happy birthday to everyone, but I saw that on my screen this morning and I thought I'll give you a shout out as well. Send me your questions and your follow-up things. I've got a few topics that people have asked for me to chat about. So we're still lining up a surgeon to talk about surgery for nets in the coming weeks. I'm going to talk about somatostatin analog injections and the different brands and the different ways they're injected. That's coming up too. So yeah, 1 o'clock on Fridays, and it's Melbourne, Sydney, Queensland time, and if you're and Tasmania, sorry to leave you to last, Tasmania, but if you're in South Australia or Northern Territory or WA, it's obviously earlier in the day for you over there. Okay, I'm stopping talking. Have a great weekend, everyone. I look forward to seeing your walking snaps. Take care, and we'll talk soon.